Okay, I think we're ready to go. So, welcome everyone to our MoonCamp 2020-2021 Winners Webinar with ESA astronaut Andreas Mogensen. I'm Jala from ESA Education and I'm your host for today. First of all, welcome Andreas. You have a nice outdoor space there, I see. And we are as well joined live by the members of our 12 outstanding winning teams from this year's MoonCamp Challenge. Each team will present themselves and their question in a short video later on. Welcome everyone. The MoonCamp Challenge is an educational project organized by ESA and Airbus Foundation in partnership with Autodesk, and it challenged students worldwide to 3D design a lunar base. So let's see what our winning teams from this year have designed. First, we're having a look at our MoonCamp Explorers winners. For ESA member states, first place is Moonbase Kernel from Warsaw, Poland. First place non-ESA member states is Mona Astra from Michigan in the USA. Second place is BRNO Dragons from the Czech Republic. Sorry for the bad pronunciation of that. I can't roll the R. Then we have the Sky Crescent team from Ujak in Turkey. Third place is Voja team from Rodnice nad Labem in the Czech Republic. And the third place non-ESA member states is Killa Jala from La Paz, Bolivia. That's our amazing Explorers designs, and we continue with the Pioneer winners. First place is Team AMAR from Prague in the Czech Republic. Then we have the amazing design from Team Appia from Bratislava in Slovakia. Second place is the Moon Meisters from Suceava in Romania. And we have the second place from Team CosMoon from Samsun, Turkey. Our third place goes to Team Pioneers from Bucharest in Romania. And as well to Team Lunar Figment from Shanghai in China. Thank you all for your amazing submissions. After introducing all of you, I quickly want to take the chance to introduce our special guest, Andreas Mogensen, as well, who will answer your questions today. Andreas was born in Copenhagen on the 2nd November 1976. He is a very sporty and adventurous man, so he enjoys, for example, sports like rugby and basketball and extreme sports like scuba diving, skydiving, and mountaineering. To give you a small overview about his life and achievements, we are starting this journey with Andreas Education. Then, like all of you, even astronauts have to go to school when they are kids. Andreas graduated from Copenhagen International School in 1995. 4 years later, he received a master's degree in aeronautical engineering from Imperial College London, and as part of his studies, he gathered some more international experience by spending a semester in Lisbon. Driven by his interest in research, Andreas enrolled for a PhD at the University of Texas and was rewarded with the achievement of his doctorate in aerospace engineering in 2007. The research within that included navigation and control of spacecraft, mission analysis and design, as well as trajectory optimization. In May 2009, Andreas was selected as an ESA astronaut and completed the astronaut basic training program at the European Astronaut Center in Cologne 1 year later. He is currently serving as the European Astronaut Liaison Officer to NASA's Johnson Space Center. His duties include, for example, communicating with the astronauts on board the ISS. And now we're coming to the most exciting part, his space flight experience. Andreas became the first Danish citizen in space on 2nd September 2015 when he was launched on the 10-day IRIS mission to the ISS. While on the space station, Andreas worked as a flight engineer and performed experiments in a variety of areas. Alongside his astronaut duties, Andreas is a lecturer at the Technical University of Denmark and the University of Aalborg. So, in case your journey takes you there, you might have the chance to join one of his inspiring lectures. I'm delighted to now give the word to Andreas Mogensen.
Good afternoon again, everyone. Can you hear me? Excellent. It's a pleasure to be here, and it was a pleasure to see all of your designs, even though I just got a very brief glance at them. Perhaps I'll get to know them a little bit closer as this next hour progresses. As was said in the introduction, I started as an astronaut I was selected by ESA as an astronaut in May 2009. That's now 12 years ago, and I can't believe time has flown. Next astronaut selection, right now we're looking for a new class of astronauts. So this is the first class after my class in 2009. It's So the good news is that going forward, ESA hopes to be able to select new astronauts every 6 years, so a little bit more regularly than we have in the past, which will hopefully allow some of you maybe one day, if you have this dream of wanting to become an astronaut, to apply to ESA. As I can tell you, being an astronaut is probably the coolest job you can have. It's a combination of science and technology development, and then a lot of incredible personal experiences if you enjoy sort of what you might call extreme sports. Part of the training, in addition to going to space, we do a lot of training that really pushes the boundaries, including the ESA Caves program, where we spend up to a week underground, several kilometers underground, living in a cave system in Sardinia, trying to train some of the team working skills, communication skills, adaptation skills that you need when you travel into space and live and work in a stressful environment. So an incredible job. As an astronaut. I've been on one mission so far, which is almost, I lose track, it's almost 6 years ago now. I'm hoping soon to have a second space flight. I don't have a date yet, but that's my hope, is that I get to go to space again, back to the International Space Station. If I'm lucky, that'll be in 2023, maybe 2024. This time, probably it will be on a US vehicle from Florida. My first launch was on the Russian Soyuz vehicle from Kazakhstan. But most likely the next one will be from Florida if I'm lucky enough to get to go to the International Space Station. I really hope I get a chance to go back, because the space station is such a unique environment. It is the biggest, most complex engineering structure that humans have ever built, and it's in orbit. It's a world-class laboratory where we can do science in every area you can imagine, from physics, chemistry, biology, physiology, material science, etc. We can also do a lot of different technology developments up there. And a lot of this is, on one hand, basic science to improve life on Earth for everyone. And on the other hand, it's also to prepare for the future. So we're looking at understanding the way our bodies react to being in space. We're trying to develop new technologies that we can help, or that we can use to help us go back to the moon, to stay for longer periods of time. And that's what we're working on at the moment. In addition to working on board the International Space Station, we're preparing for the future, which will see us return to the moon for the first time since 1972. So we're building the Gateway Space Station in in lunar orbit, and also preparing to have astronauts return to the surface of the moon. And then longer-term horizon, looking also at sending astronauts to Mars sometime in the future. And we're preparing for that through robotic precursor missions by sending orbiters and rovers to Mars that'll help to go there. One very, very exciting time, space exploration, and especially in human spaceflight, where most likely in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see astronauts both on board the International Space Station, but also going back to the moon. Personally, I can't wait to see these developments come true. I can't wait to see humans back on the moon. I wasn't old enough to remember astronauts on the moon in the 60s and 70s. I wasn't even born yet, as you weren't either. So for me, this will be the first time seeing humans on the moon, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see your moon designs either. So I think at this point, I'll stop talking, and then we'll get started on the rest of the program.
Thank you so much for the short introduction. Yes, I think we are ready to start with our first question from Team Moon Meisters. And yeah, video off.
Hello, we are Moon Meisters from Romania. I'm Vlad.
I'm Julia.
And I am Petro. We would like to ask two questions. Mainly, what are the differences between common beliefs about astronauts and what the media promotes about them and the actual real experience?
Well, that's a very good question. Can you all hear me now? It just kind of pauses for a while after the video ends. So that's a very good question. You know, probably the hardest thing to get used to as an astronaut is your career that you actually spend in space. When you associate or when you think about the job of an astronaut, you think about going into space. But as I said, it's been 12 years since I was selected, and so far I've only had one mission to the International Space Station. So I've spent the majority of my career here on Earth, just like everyone else. You know, if it was up to me, I would spend much more time in space because it's such a unique experience, and I would love to go back. You know, as soon as I landed after my first mission, I was ready to go back right away. So that's probably the biggest difference, is the fact that most of our work still takes place here on the Earth, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you so much for this answer. Let's go ahead with the next question from Lunar Figment.
Hello, we are Lunar Figment from China. I'm the Captain Charlie, and these are my teammates.
I'm David. I'm Toby.
I'm Allison.
I'm Barry.
We are students in Senior 1, and we are all interested in space. Curious about your life in the space. We want to know changes have taken place since you got selected to be an astronaut.
Well, there are a lot of changes that have taken place. One of the unique things about the International Space Station is the international partnership behind it. You know, the space station is truly an international collaborative effort between the United States, Europe, Canada, Japan, and Russia. And as such, our training takes place in all those different countries. So as an astronaut, you get to travel a lot. In preparation for my first mission, I spent a lot of time in the US, a lot of time in Russia, but also a considerable amount of time in Europe, Japan, and Canada to get trained and to get prepared for my space flight. So there's a tremendous amount of traveling involved, between all of the international partners that are behind the ISS. Another thing that, of course, is also different after you get selected as an astronaut is that you become an ambassador for space, you become an ambassador for science, and in some ways an ambassador for humankind. And so a lot of our time is also spent doing outreach, talking with students, talking with the public, explaining and sharing our excitement for science and space with everyone else. And that's something you have to get used to as well. Suddenly, people are interested in what you want to say. People want to hear you talk. And so there's a lot more focus on you as a person and as an astronaut than there was previously. I'm a much more public person. And in some ways, you have to, I think, enjoy that because it's a part of the job. It's an important part of the job, especially talking with young people like I'm doing today. Hopefully, I have I'll have an opportunity to inspire you, to share with you my own excitement for science and technology, and of course, space exploration, because that's how I was inspired as a child, listening to other scientists and astronauts talk about their life and their work, and that's eventually, what led me to become an astronaut. So hopefully, I can inspire you today the same way that I was inspired.
Yes, I think we are very happy to having you here, and I'm sure that not just me, I'm the only excited one here, so thank you so much. We are going ahead with Voja team. Third question.
Hi, we are Voja team from the Czech Republic. I am Vojta.
And I am Jan. How was your preparation for short-term mission different from the preparation for long-term mission on ISS?
Next time, would you like to experience the long-term space mission?
Yes, I hope that next time I get to be on time because it's such an incredible place to be that in many ways the 10 days I was up there was too short. I would love to experience so much more. We have, among other things, the cupola, which is our window module on board the ISS, which is an incredible place to spend your free time to look down at our beautiful planet. And I saw so many incredible sights from cupola, but there's still a lot of things that I didn't see. I never saw, for example, the Andes Mountains or the Himalayan mountains. So I hope to go back, and I hope next time I get to get a longer mission, maybe up to 6 months, which seems to be the standard at the moment, because it is such an incredible place that once you get on board the International Space Station, you don't want to come home again. In terms of training for a short mission versus a long mission, there were a few small differences, but in general, the training was the same because we have to be able to do the same kind of work. Perhaps my training was a little bit more focused on the science aspects of my time on board the space station. I was doing only science. I didn't have to do any maintenance or repair. All other astronauts have to spend a certain amount of time just maintaining the International Space Station, repairing anything that breaks down, because like any complex machinery, things get worn out, things break down, and you have to replace and repair things. But for me, I was completely focused on the science aspect. So perhaps I didn't do quite as much training on the maintenance and repair side of things, but otherwise, my training was more or less the same. It also took approximately 2 years for me to train for my mission. A lot of that training, maybe half of the training, was focused on the Soyuz spacecraft that I used to launch and land with, because the launch and landing phase are the two most dynamic phases when you fly to space. It's where there's the most risk, and so you spend a tremendous amount of time studying the spacecraft itself and learning how to deal with it.
Very interesting. Let's go ahead with question number 4 from BRNO Dragons.
Everyone, my name is Peter.
And I'm Martin.
We live in the Czech Republic and study at Bishop's High School in Brno.
Our team is called BRNO Dragons. I wonder, what is your best or most interesting experience in your whole career as member of ESA? Thanks you very much for your answers.
We are very delighted to participate in this competition. Bye.
Good question. Just before I answer, are people still on, or it looks like maybe a lot of people were kicked off?
They are still on. We just enabled the video for the bandwidth so that we have no cutouts.
Okay. So my best experience, that's a very, very difficult question. There have been so many positive experiences. If I think about the training, then as I mentioned, I was part of a caves mission where we spent a week living several kilometers underground in a cave system. Every day we would go exploring, which means essentially you're mountaineering underground in the pitch darkness because there's absolutely no light inside of a cave. That was a tremendous experience. I also had a chance to, twice actually, I've had a chance to participate in what's called NASA NEMO missions. These are underwater missions where we live in an underwater laboratory on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Florida at a depth of 20 meters. Again, it's to simulate a space mission, and we can work on board the International Space Station. That was an incredible opportunity as well to live underwater for a week. If I think about my time on board the International Space Station and some of the work that I did, one of the coolest experiences was doing an experiment to film and photograph giant lightning called blue jets and red sprites. These are lightning that shoot upwards from the top of thunderclouds and out towards space rather than down towards the ground. And I was so lucky that during my 10 days on board the space station, I was able to film a blue jet, which is this blue giant lightning that shoots up from thunderclouds at an altitude of about 40 kilometers, and it shoots out towards space. And I filmed it as it pulsated 3 times within a second and a half. And it was really incredible to see. And it turned out, I later found out that that's the first time that we filmed a blue jet or captured it on video. So that was really exciting to be part of a science experiment where we were able to collect help us understand some of these phenomena in our atmosphere. So a lot of incredible experiences in a wide variety of areas.
That sounds extremely exciting. And talking about the ISS, we continue with the question from AMAR team, which created an ISS-inspired moon camp.
The Czech AMAR team from Prague, which is a city near Brno, consists of 2 brothers. And coincidentally, it is the 2 of us.
Our goal is to design a self-sufficient base that can be implemented in the next 10 years. Our project is based on the real measurements and experiments, as well as on already proven existing techniques. Our question is, based on your experience with the ISS, what would you improve on the future space station, and what would you keep the same?
That's a really good question. One of the things that's missing on board the International Space Station is a habitation compartment. You know, in many ways, when the International Space Station was designed, the engineers thought about all the laboratory and workspaces that we didn't really think about the fact that astronauts would have to live up there for 6 months at a time. So there's no single habitation compartment. The sleeping quarters, for example, are located in node 2, where we do a lot of the maintenance and repair work. The exercise equipment is spread out over 2 different modules, the laboratory module and the node 3. There's not a real sort of kitchen area. We've put up a table that we can eat at in node 1, which also means that if we spill anything like ketchup or any sauce, then it stains the walls, because the walls aren't hard plastic that you could just wipe clean. Instead, it's cloth fabric. And there's no real, even though we have a toilet, there's no real hygiene area. You know, even though we can't take a bath, we can still, you know, take a wet towel and sort of clean ourselves. The danger is that when you do that, small little water droplets get liberated, and then they float around. You don't want to get that into any electronic equipment. And so in order to clean ourselves, we have to hang up these big plastic sheets in the middle of what's called the PMM, which is essentially our big closet. So there's no real sort of designated habitation compartment. If I could redesign anything, that's what I would do. I would add a habitation compartment where you have a, you know, sleeping quarters next to the kitchen area, and the kitchen area is surrounded by hard plastic walls that you can just wash or, you know, wipe clean. And there would also be a dedicated area where you could change clothes and do hygiene, clean yourself, you know, take a simple kind of wash. So hopefully you've added that to your moon-based designs, because that would make astronauts very happy to have this.
Thank you for these interesting insights on the ISS. Yes, we continue with a question from Team Mona Astra, whose participants woke up early today to join us from the US.
Hello, we are Team Mona Astra from the USA. I'm Harrison. I'm 12 years old.
I'm Victor, and I'm 13 years old.
I'm Ella. I'm 11 years old.
I'm Kyle, and I'm 10 years old.
I'm Eric, and I'm also 10 years old.
Thank you for having us today. The question that we would like to ask Astronaut Mogensen is, if you could bring 3 things to the moon, excluding essentials, spacesuit, food, water,
I think I would have to spend some more time thinking about that. But just off the top of my head, I think I would like to bring a small telescope, or maybe just a pair of really good binoculars, so that I could look at stars from the moon, especially the moon or the far side of the moon, where the night sky would be, you know, pitch black when it's pointed away from the sun. I think you would be able to see some amazing sights of stars and planets. I think I'd also like to bring a book, maybe one of my favorite books, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it would be a special experience to sit on the moon in the evenings and read that, and imagine a future where we could travel among the planets and among the stars. As for the third thing I would bring, I don't know. It would probably be something to do with my family, maybe a family photo, I think, that I could take with me to the moon.
Very nice. We continue with the team that designed the first octopus on the moon. That's moon-based Kernel.
Hello, we're the moon-based Kernel.
Mikołaj,
Blanka,
Kajetan.
team from Poland. Our question is, how do you see the future of moon settlement, in particular dangers and the psychological aspects? Thank you for your answer.
Well, let's start with the easy part of the question. I personally, I don't think there will be significant psychological challenges. You know, we have a lot of experience from the International Space Station where most astronauts spend 6 months on board. We've even now had several astronauts spend a whole year or very close to a year. Scott Kelly, Peggy Whitson, Christina Koch, Drew Morgan, Mark Vandehei, who's up there now, will probably spend about a year. So we have quite a lot of experience and data from long-term stays on board the International Space Station. And as we've seen, it's challenging, but certainly doable for astronauts. And I think, you know, they'll have the same experience in the future on the moon as we have on board the ISS. So if we send astronauts to the moon for 6 months or a year at a time, I don't think it's going to be a problem psychologically for them. Basically because it's such a big experience for them to be on the moon. There's going to be so much interesting work to keep them busy, you know, exploring the lunar surface, doing experiments, doing technology development, but really exploring the surface. I think that must be one of the most interesting things of going to the moon. In terms of dangers, there are some dangers that we have to cope with when sending astronauts to the moon. Astronauts on the moon are not protected by Earth's magnetic field from solar radiation or cosmic radiation, and so if there's a solar storm which sends a lot of high energy particles to the moon, then we have to somehow protect the astronauts from those particles. And perhaps you can build an underground moon base so that you use lunar regolith or lunar soil on top of your roof to sort of protect the astronauts. That's probably the biggest danger or the biggest difference between being on board the International Space Station and being on the moon, because on board the International Space Station, we're still partly protected by Earth's magnetic field. Most of the other dangers we know about, the loss of bone mass and the loss of muscle mass due to weightlessness from the International Space Station. We know that we can fix that through exercise. So probably space radiation is one of the most significant dangers that we have to take into account if we want to send astronauts to the moon for, say, a 6-month mission.
So we move on to Team Sky Crescent, who want to know more about lunar exploration. So good that we're already in our heads on the moon.
Hello, I'm Zeynep Cemre Kandili from Zetan team. Me, my friends Elif Çoban, Tarık Akyüz, Arki Çorbucuoğlu, Emin Süleyman Heber and Elif Subuçak, and our advisor Nurettin Can Bodur joined this competition from Turkey, and our camp's name is Cappadocia, inspired from an ancient place in Turkey. Dear Mogensen, I want to ask a question. Which sectors will use the results of mining activities on the moon in the future?
You know, one of the most exciting things about science and exploration is that the answer is not always obvious. When we do scientific research and when we do exploration, we're really going into the unknown. And so we never know how things exactly are going to turn out. I mean, we can sort of try to guess what we will get out of going to the moon, but in the end, we don't really know. And that's what makes discovery so exciting, because it's going to surprise us. There's going to be unexpected results and unexpected benefits. Of course, we can try to imagine what some of those will be. You know, to begin with, we will try to use some of the resources on the moon for the exploration itself. So if we can find water ice, for example, on the moon, we could use that to generate oxygen and water, which we can use either to breathe and to drink, or we could also use it as rocket fuel. If we can use the lunar soil as a type of manufacturing product, we might be able to build structures on the moon for living in. We might also be able to use the soil in a type of 3D printer in order to print and produce components that we need for living and working on board the moon. You know, if we think further in the future, maybe some of the lunar resources are also of interest for society back on Earth. Exactly what that is kind of hard to say. A lot of people talk about the presence of helium-3 on the moon. Helium-3 is a product that you need for fusion reactors. Now, we don't really have any fusion reactors at the moment, but there's a lot of research going into fusion reactors because it's a very clean source of energy. And so if we one day are able to perfect fusion technology, then helium-3 on the moon would be a key source of fuel for these nuclear reactors on Earth. But as I said, the exciting thing is we don't really know what we're going to find on the moon. We don't really know where our exploration of the moon is going to take us. And that's exactly why it's so exciting what we're doing.
Yes, very exciting. Let's see what the future brings. For now, we continue with question number 9, presented by the pioneers.
Greetings from Bucharest, Romania. We are team pioneers.
Today, we're pleased to have the amazing chance to be part of this webinar. As we said, our team's name is Pioneers, but it's obvious you're also a pioneer, the first being that has ever been in space as part of the ISS program.
We know you use augmented reality goggles during some of your maintenance tasks. Could you please elaborate some more on how this technology helps astronauts on the ISS and how you think it could be further improved to better suit working in space? Thank you.
Thank you very much for organizing the Mooncamp Challenge. That has been one of our best experiences so far.
Thank you very much.
That's an excellent question, because I think augmented reality will be a key technology on the future. Even though astronauts spend years and years of training and preparing for their missions, you know, it takes about 4 years from you get selected to be an astronaut until you're ready for your first space flight. So 4 years of training to get you ready for your first mission to space. But even though we do that much training, the International Space Station is so big and so complex that there's just no way that astronauts can know every detail about every system. That's also one of the reasons why we have mission control centers in Houston, in Moscow, in Munich, and in Tsukuba, Japan, because there the engineers who are really the experts can control most of the space station. And it's really the engineers and the technicians in the control centers that monitor and control most of the systems on board the space station, simply because the astronauts don't have the time, and also because despite all of our training, we're not the experts. And so augmented reality is a way to help astronauts do some of the work, some of the complicated work that they might not have been trained in. And this is especially important in the future when we go to the moon, and especially when we go to Mars. You know, the International Space Station is only 400 kilometers away from us, which means that communication between the control centers and the International Space Station is instantaneous. There's no time delay. And so it's very easy for mission control to monitor and to control the space station. But the further we go out into space, the more of a time delay we have in the communication. At the moon, at the distance of the moon, the delay is maybe only a second. So again, it's still not significant. But if we go to the moon, or sorry, to Mars, you know, as soon as we're part of the way to Mars, then the communication delay becomes several minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And at that point, you can no longer have real-time conversations. And astronauts really have to work independently from mission control. And here, augmented realities that can guide the astronauts through the work, through the maintenance and repair activities that they have to do is key, I think, because it's going to be very hard for the astronauts to have the level of expertise necessary to be able to fix any system that breaks down. You know, any system can break down, and if it does, then we need to be able to fix it. And here, augmented reality, I think, is a key technology. And I know from my work in mission control that it's something that we're already working on board the International Space Station. My good friend and ESA colleague, Thomas Pesquet, who is on board the ISS right now. 2 weeks ago, I was working as Capcom in mission control, talking with Thomas as he was doing some maintenance, and he was actually testing the augmented goggles that we have on board the space station for his task. And it's something we're using already now, and I think we will see much more of in the future.
Thank you so much for these insights. We will now have Team Via Appia on next.
Hello, my name is Daniel Dvornichenko.
I'm Filip Jedinik.
My name is Artyom Stingh. And our question is, will commercial space flights affect the number of active astronauts at ESA?
Well, the answer is it may. We don't know for sure, but it's a pretty good guess that as commercial spaceflight becomes more and more prominent, that we'll also need more and more astronauts. Right now, in Europe, we have about 6 or 7 active astronauts. And as I mentioned earlier, we're in the process of selecting a new team of astronauts, maybe 4, maybe 5 new astronauts. Out a year. But in addition to those 4 or 5 astronauts that we will select in the next year, we're also going to select a reserve group of astronauts just in case commercial spaceflight means that we have more opportunities. In this way, we'll have pre-identified or pre-selected a group of people who are qualified to be astronauts, but who we just can't hire at the moment because we don't have enough space missions for them. But if commercial spaceflight takes off, then they are ready to jump in and to join ESA and to do some of these commercial missions. So the answer is we don't know yet for sure, but there's a good chance that there will be more opportunities to fly into space in the future thanks to commercial spaceflight.
Yes, we will see what the future brings. So the next question is from Team CosMoon, and a little spoiler, it's including the bad word starting with a Q that we all heard too much last year.
We know that Apollo 11 crew stayed in quarantine.
Because it was possible that they may bring an unknown virus to the world?
Is it possible that a virus can stay on the moon? If it is yes, how?
Well, this is, one of the wonderful things about life, and one of the wonderful things about science is all these exciting things that we learn. Now, I don't know about viruses, but we do know that bacteria, for example, can survive long periods of time in space and on the moon. We were able to collect samples from an unmanned spacecraft that crash landed on the moon. Some of the Apollo astronauts were able to collect samples from that, and in those samples, they saw bacteria that were still viable. It turns out that bacteria can go into a dormant phase and come back to life once the conditions, say on Earth, are good enough again. So yes, it seems like some forms of life, like bacteria, can survive in outer space for long periods of time, which is very, very exciting. Some people also think that maybe life began on Mars and then was transported to Earth on board meteorites. You know, when a comet or an asteroid strikes Mars, for example, pieces of rocks from Mars get ejected into orbit, and some of those pieces of rocks land on Earth. We know this, for example, from meteorites that we've collected in Antarctica. We can tell that they originate from Mars. So we know that there's been an exchange of material between Mars and Earth. And so maybe life started one place and was transported to Earth. What this means for astronauts is a good question. I'm not sure we would in the future quarantine astronauts returning from the moon, simply because we know from the Apollo missions that there's not really a danger. But perhaps when we send astronauts to Mars, at least in the beginning, before we understand Mars and before we know if there's life on Mars, perhaps then we will ask astronauts to quarantine again once they return to Earth.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. So last but not least, we have question number 12 from Team Killa Jala.
Hi, dear Jala group. I am Camila Salas.
I am Valeria Camacho.
Hi, my name is Cesar Pablo.
Hi, my name is Adriana Vergara.
I am Jaime Things.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Aranda. What criteria must we have to be selected to live on the moon?
Thank you so much.
Well, I think astronauts in the future who will travel to the moon will be selected based on the same criteria that we use today to select astronauts to go to the International Space Station, which in general means that to be selected, you need to have an education and a career in a STEM subject, which is science, tech, and medicine. You also need to have some experience living and working in challenging environments. You need to have some operational experience, for example, as a pilot or maybe as a fireman, scuba diver, maybe working as a doctor in the field or as a scientist doing expeditions to the jungle or to Antarctica, basically because the environment that we live and work in space on board the space station and in the future on the moon is very challenging. It's not the same as living at home and then going to work in an office and coming home at night. You have to have, in addition to your science and technology background, also some operational experience. And then the psychological aspects, of course, are very, very important. You have to be good at team working. You have to be good at cooperating with other people, working in small teams, in big teams. You have to be able to communicate well. You have to be able to deal with stress without letting it affect and your ability to work together well with others. And of course, you need to be healthy. It's a very important part of the astronaut selection is looking at our state of health, because if you're going to the space station or you're going to the moon for 6 months, you know, we want to make sure that you don't suddenly develop a disease, which means that you have to return early to Earth. So those are really the key attributes in the astronaut selection today, and I think they'll stay in the future as well when we select astronauts that will go to the moon.
So that was the last question. Andreas, thank you so much for your inspiring answers. And also, for sure, thank you to all the teams that joined us today. You did incredible work, and we are very, very happy to receive so amazing entries. So once again, congratulations to you all. And we are letting you in again and allow you to turn the cameras on, because we would like to invite you to do a little screen capture, a little selfie with our astronaut from this webinar. So let's try that. Please turn your cameras on. I will wait a little bit. And then we can do a little selfie all together. So I see almost everyone, except from Andreas at the moment, which is a pity.
Do I need to do something for my?
I think now just your camera is turned off, so we can't see you.
Oh,
I can see him.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see him.
Yeah. Can you do the screen capture then? Oh no, now it is there. No one move, please. Just wait. Okay, awesome. So let's do the second page in a bit, and then okay, one is saved. And I'm going to page 2 now, but we will for sure assemble everything so that we have everyone. So once again, smile and wave. Awesome. Great. The selfie is done. And yes, then I would leave the word for last closing remarks to Andreas.
Well, thanks so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure to hear very briefly about your topics and to answer your excellent questions. I hope you've enjoyed the work that you've done in connection with this project. Hopefully you've learned something and been inspired. You know, personally, I think not just science, but especially space exploration, I think it's the most exciting line of work. You know, for me, my dream of becoming an astronaut started back when I was in 4th or 5th grade. I was about 10 or 11 years old the first time I learned about NASA and the Apollo missions to the moon. And it was really the Apollo missions to the moon that fascinated me and that started this dream of mine to become an astronaut. But as the years went by, I also became interested in science. And by the time I got to high school and I had to pick a career that I wanted, I realized that my fascination with science and especially with space exploration was so big that that's what I wanted to work in, even if I couldn't become an astronaut. I knew that the chances of becoming an astronaut were very, very, very small. And so I decided to become an aerospace engineer, because then I thought, if I can't be an astronaut and go into space myself, at least I can build satellites and other spacecraft and send them into space instead of me. So that's what I did. I became an aerospace engineer. I worked in space exploration. I worked on different satellite missions. I worked on different moon missions or ideas for moon missions. And then in 2008, 2009, I was so lucky that ESA was looking for new astronauts, and I sent my application in. And a year later, I was among the 6 lucky new Europeans that could start a new job as an astronaut. But for me, even if I hadn't become an astronaut, I would have continued working as an engineer, building satellites and building spacecraft to explore our solar system and the universe, because I think that is really just the most exciting thing there is. And I'm glad to see that you've all worked on this project. Hopefully you've been inspired. Hopefully you're just as excited about space exploration as I am. I'm certain that in the future, in the next 10, 20, 30 years, we're going to see so many exciting new developments and so many exciting scientific discoveries coming from space exploration. That's all I had to share with you today. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. It's been a pleasure to hear a little bit about the projects that you've worked on. And as I said, I hope you've enjoyed your time on this project.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for having you and having everyone of all of you and your inspiring projects, and get the chance to see them all. And it's really, really amazing, your work that you did. And Andreas, thank you so much to giving us these inspiring answers. Yes, then I'm happy that I can wish all of you a very nice day, evening or morning, wherever you are at the moment. And it's great to be connected here now with all of you in so many different places in the world. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Sonra görüşürüz.
Continue.